When the Iron Curtain began to come down, one of the first major tracks behind it to see racing action was the Hungaroring. But this place lends itself to an iron defense, with passing at a premium. Prepare to push hard and get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 13 Challenge class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Mike Naus. As always, behind the scenes, our director, Ramiro Cisneros. Well, we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. PCA is also proud to announce that they are celebrating their 70th anniversary in 2025. Here's to many more decades with North America's largest Porsche enthusiast group. Well, Mike, this is going to be it for our drivers. We've got tonight, and then we've got one more on the season.
We certainly do, and it's getting down to a brilliant last tracks as well. Hungaroring, as you mentioned, a tough to pass track, at the best times tough to pronounce as well, it turns out. But the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo E. Dino Ferrari to end the season out is going to be electric, and that's going to be on April 10th for the challenge class. But of course, there's every single category to keep an eye on over on the RaceSpotTV, and of course, thanks to PCA for everything here. And as we get on to it, I am absolutely going to be looking forward tonight to this qualifying, Joe, because it is going to be tight, as you can see.
Yeah, here we get a glance at the track. Major zones to watch out for. Look out for turn 1, where passes can maybe happen. Maybe into 6. It's going to be difficult there into that chicane. And of course, turn 12 offers a chance if you can stay close to your competitors. But otherwise, main place is going to be turn 1. So out of turn 14 will be critical. As for the championship, 70 points between Hales and Douglas. And then it's only 80 points between Hales and Danley. So they're all very tight. In fact, it's only 20 more points. So 100 points between first and fourth means all of them are very much in it. Ed Trippett could still probably steal a march here. So could Jeppesen and Messer. But now you're starting to get to the range where it's going to be a little bit more difficult. They'll need some good results tonight. Nye, Hillman, and Glaze probably not going to be in it unless something dramatic happens. As for the clean driver standings here, Mike, it's certainly looking one-sided.
It really is. Alan Hales is currently hailing at the top, as he was hoping when we talked to him a couple interviews ago. He mentioned that was his goal by the end of the season. Josh Jeppesen just trailing there with 10 incidence points more. Beyond that, Ed Trippett and Robert Glaze equally naughty in this season than everybody else behind, seemingly, well, a little bit more. Hopefully tonight, we were talking about a little bit before the broadcast, there is a potential chance there's a lot more incident points to be had due to the nature of this circuit. Lots of runoff area and lots of places to pick up a little bit of a time penalty.
And so it can be easy to rack those up. You don't want to get them because this championship for the clean driver, you can only gain those incident points. You can't take them off of there. As you take a look at track conditions, 73 Fahrenheit, so very good on the track surface, very little wind to speak of as well. Drivers have a great racetrack to go and set some times for, which is actually what is happening right now, because they've got qualifying underway and they're on their out laps currently. But we saw last time that drivers did have to get out there to try and get their 3 laps in before the 10 minutes were over. It's not ultra critical, Mike, but you really can't wait too long.
No, you really can't. And for these Porsches in particular here, a banker lap is going to be absolutely crucial. They need to make sure they keep it between the mayo and the mustard on their first go round, especially just to keep it well within the limits here. A lot of drivers are going to be invalidating here, Joe, so lots of drivers towards the back, I would imagine. But so far, looking at this lap, we can see these cars are dicey. The rear engine nature really causes them to squirm around, and I absolutely love seeing this car out on this track.
Gianni Now coming into the chicane on the back half of the course, maybe a little off in that first apex. Gotta watch out for that. Robert Galaze, who we saw was within the top 10 in the points, trying to set his first time. This is at the end of the lap here, around 13 and into 14. So I assume he's going to be starting his first flyer when he crosses the line. One thing to watch out for, the timing line is early right there. So it's not where they start the race, it's where they finish the race that their timing is scored.
And of course, that being a short dash down to the first corner, they're going to have to be quick onto the brakes. But also for this qualifying session, it means that they have to be very much on the limit on that final corner. And with it being so tight, the wall's never far away. You can always have a bit of a brushing. But Dave Douglas here, let's go with him this lap to see exactly how he is going to contend with the curbs. And that looked a little dicey. That was turn 3, the bit of the kind of very fast-natured apex into what I like to call this the sort of roller coaster section here, into turn 5, where you chuck it around the right-hander to get handed back towards the chicane. A little late on the throttle, it sounded like there for Dave, as a bit of a, I think, overcooking into it. That's often going to be the case in that corner. Easy to carry, just slightly too much speed. So far, into Sector 3, lots of curb usage, surprisingly. It's easy again for these cars. They're so light, flighty, and able to go over these and basically, again, have a bit of a spine buster through Sector 3 now, into turns 9, 10, and down the run towards turn 12. This is where we'll see maybe an overtake, maybe 2, a small handful available just to get it into the twisty, windy turn 12A, and then get it rounded back for the penultimate corner here. To go long, long on the throttle, wait your turn, now get back left and onto the accelerator for one last time here, and this is going to be seemingly decent for Dave Douglas, but all things here, let's find out. As he crosses the line, it's going to be a 146.8.
It's one of the first drivers to set a time, in fact, and now we wait for everybody else to trickle in, and Josh Jeppesen is our quickest so far. Provisional pole for him by almost a second over Alan Hales in second place. My goodness, that's a huge gap on the first lap, although we're waiting on a few drivers still, maybe about half a dozen that need to set a time. There's Carl Bess and then Jack Stevenson down into turn 1 as well in the 116 car.
That we have here for PCA, the pro category, club category, and sport. And for the pro, Bryce Rodriguez had a 142.7. Behind him, we had Mitchell Schultz with a 143.8, a 1 second difference just about. And then Jake Gerbino down 1 more second with a 144.5. So a 145.2 is near competing with the sport pole position in the other category. So that is absolutely, again, out of this category, at least for the lap times, but still well within here the potential grips, I think, of Alan Hales.
Dramatic difference from what we've been seeing, not just in you get more than top 10 all within a single second. And down to 10th place, it's 1.7 seconds between the top 10 here. So yeah, very unusual compared to what we are used to experiencing. Stevenson certainly having a few struggles, unfortunately, and I believe that's a glitch for Marco Souza. I don't think his hood has the special dancing feature on the 911.
No, but it certainly would be a brilliant little added feature. It's almost like what Tesla does with the in-cab lights. I feel like Porsche that be taking note. Now, maybe I'm just spitballing, throwing things at the wall here, but either way. Here is Marco Souza, going to be setting his lap here. Well, is he actually? No, this is going to be an out lap, as it is not quite the greatest time.
So across the line, we only need Souza and Stevenson to set a lap from here. We mentioned easy to pick up those off tracks. That means it will delete that lap that you're on. You have to keep it within the track boundaries. Jeppesen's still on pole. It's been cut down to half a second. Poulos able to get closer to him. We're sticking with Stevenson to see whether he can get one on the board. Last lap for him This is going to be so important. There have been a couple drivers that failed to set a time in the previous class.
The first challenge track you want to be going for, it's not going to be like Spa or like your Silverstones or other large circuits with lots of area to go for passes on. This is going to be a track that is going to be a luxury to pass. And we'll see. First off, I do want to give a little shout out here because this livery is brilliant. I'm a massive fan of Rainbow Sherbert, so I absolutely love seeing the flavorful display of that livery. And George Poulos here practicing his pit entries, a man of my heart.
Well, that means he's abandoned his last lap. So George not going to try and hassle Jeppesen for that pole position. Checking to see if there's anybody able to take their last lap. Haglia moves up into third with his most recent lap time. It's within about 0.5 of a second. Gerwing in the 199 has a black flag, interestingly. Not sure. Now, in qualifying, you can either get that from going across the pit exit line too early, or if you sometimes go a little bit too slow, there is an automatic sensor on iRacing trying to see if drivers are gaming the system, if you will, to cool tires down. So I wonder if maybe that's what caught him out on this one. You have to get it going and get it going quickly. Meanwhile, Antonio da Silva sitting in 8th. Is he on his last lap? No, he's already completed all 3.
We'll see then. He's just getting a little more sighting lap and probably going to practice that pit entry one last time, as of course we are going to be expecting one pit stop here tonight. It's not technically mandatory. However, here we use a lighter fuel load, 80%, so these cars are not going to be able to go the entirety of the race. I'm not completely sure what the other categories were, but I, in my notes, have written down 25 to 30 laps.
Looks like Marco Souza is going to be the only one that is able to set a lap time from here. Everybody else out on the track has already taken their 3, and it'll be a little close. Well, it won't matter because he's now spun it out, and that's it for his 3rd and final try. He'll do no better than 21st today. 26 cars out there, and it certainly looks like they've got their work cut out for him here in the challenge class because it is a challenging circuit, this one, at the Hungaroring. A lot of mistakes last night cost drivers some good finishes throughout. Here's Andrew Hillman in the meantime. Again, he's already taken all 3 of his laps, so he's just practicing at this stage. He's got himself a nice top 10 start, it looks like.
Yeah, down into, well, just the bottom slot there, 10th position, right ahead of Vernon Messer and Robert Galais behind them, and Tarigiani in 9th position, setting himself up fairly well. Antonio da Silva right around there. So some big names that we expect up in the top are up in the top. Trying to keep an eye out here. I'm not seeing anybody that we expect, or everybody, I guess, fairly in the cutting order. Nobody too far out of the running, as everybody did set a lap.
All except for, it looks like Patrick Aguirre, I think, didn't get one down. But regardless, before we head to our grid, we do have a special announcement. There is a very special event coming your way. Let's check out a video on it.
GT3 spinning into the westward chute.
That's right. PCA Sim Racing will be hosting an Operation Motorsports benefit event. This year's event will be a 6-hour race on Sunday, May 4th at Spa-Francorchamps. For more information, go to pcasimracing.com/opmo6hours. Or if you'd like to register, head over to tinyurl.com/opmo2025. Operation Motorsport, veteran recovery through motorsports. So as the drivers get lined up here. We've got our pole lap. Mike, do you want to talk us around, show us how to be quick at this place?
Well, I'm not sure I will be the best one to show you around, but I think Josh Jeppesen here is going to be the man to watch of the moment with an absolute stonking 145.2. Through the first corner, very tight onto the apex, run that wide, use all of the track you paid for it, so you might as well. Into the very tricky corner complex here coming up. This was one of my least favorites on this track here. You got to get it nice and tight, and here flat out, easy flat in the Porsche, but the car constantly wanting to go straight. You have to fight it back onto the line. This is where it's easy to invalidate. Chuck it into this corner, high speed, high commitment, easy to run wide. Simultaneously into this corner, you can have the same issue. You cook too much speed in the previous, easy to fly on wide through there, bleed all of your speed. Now, into the tight technical chicane, this is where everything becomes almost tunnel visioned for the drivers, where you have to be dancing this car on the limit of its grip through each corner. No time to lose focus at all. You think the road straightens out? Well, that is not quite how it works. Easy flat through the left-hander, then back into the rights here of 9, down the hills towards turn 12 now, down into the braking zone of turn 12 and 12A. Good overtaking chance if you are brave enough, and if the other driver is going to let you on by. Now the penultimate corner, turn 13, tight on the apex, run it wide, and then get ready to tighten it back left to set yourself up for the final corner. Get close to the curb, but not too close. That wall is easy to clip if you go too deep into it. A wide line there, easy to invalidate. This is a tricky track. End of the line very shortly. That is going to be the pole position lap there, that 145.2.
Fantastic stuff. And put himself well clear of competitors. Will this be a rout for him? That's the question. Guess it's time to go through our starting grid for today's race, and Jeppesen on the pole will start well ahead of George Poulos. Nick Paglia starts from third as Alan Hales will start from P4, clean and fast. Kevin Hammond will be in fifth, followed by Dave Douglas on the outside of that third row. Britt Danley will be P7, Antonio Da Silva in 8th. Row 5 sees Torrigiani on the inside, and Hillman rounding out your top 10. Messer will start from 11th, and then 12th will go to Robert Glaze. Trippett then is in 13th, with Gerwing in P14, DiVincenzo P15, and Aubrey Heyer in the 16th spot. Ben Whitehurst good enough for 17th today, followed by James Legault in the 18th position. Then it's Alex Lidback in 19th, John Kaplan in 20th, and Marco Souza in 21st. Brad Dunn then to the outside of Souza. Lisa Eskridge 23rd, and Keith Markison on the outside of that 12th row. Just a couple more cars with Carl Best starting 25th, Stevenson 26th, and Aguera at the back of the field, failing to set a time in 27th today. Just about have the warm-up wrapped up here, Mike. I'm looking forward to this. This is the last time we'll get to see this track in Series 13, because after this we head off to Imola.
Yeah, down to Italy for the final round of this championship, but beforehand we get to soak in what is a glorious, not just Porsche track that we're going to be having, but of course a Formula One circuit as well. And as you'd mentioned at the top of the broadcast, of course, one of the first races to play host to Formula One post the Iron Wall falling down. That was in 1986. The first F1 race was held here. And, you know, a fun little fact of a little bit later on, there at one point in time was a youngest winner here, and that was in 2003, Joe. And do you know who that youngest winner is?
I'm trying to think of who it was. So you have to tell me.
It's Fernando Alonso, the youngest winner in Formula One at that time, at the bright, sprightly age of 22 years old back in 2003. And he's still going to be racing out on this track once again this year. Wait, are they racing here this year? Hold on.
Yes, they will be.
Yes,
there
they are. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. This is a perennial track for F1, showing up pretty much every single year. It is weird to think about that. It used to be the new kid on the block. Now it's considered kind of old school compared to a lot of tracks, but. We'll see if anybody can manage to do like Alonso did as they are underway behind the pace car Jeppesen starting from pole position. What is that going to look like down into turn one, where it is downhill braking, and we frequently see accidents start to pile up into that first right-hander. Drivers will have to be on their tiptoes into there, and this series prides itself in their clean driving. So hopefully we shouldn't have too much drama. Pace car is in, and they're out of the final corner waiting for the call from the flag stand, and there it is. Green flag is out. Jeppesen with a fantastic start, leaving Poulos behind. Paglia is already up into second place, managing to overtake down the inside. Looks like maybe Hammond also might be able to take third. No, he brakes early and is not going to be able to get to the inside of him down into turn one. The rest of the drivers working their way around there, 2 wide, not much 3 wide. This is nice and orderly, Mike.
It is, but Trigiani looks like he wants to be carving his way through this field like a Thanksgiving turkey, and there's a bit of contact, though, into turn 3. That looked like number 5 there, getting into the side of the 86. I think that was Trigiani getting off a little bit worse as well. I mentioned him getting a good start. It seems like he did manage a solid one up into 6th here, but getting bumped back is Andrew Hillman. Everybody's still looking like very aggressive as we go into sector 2.
Right, that was Hales and Danley that came together coming down through turn 2. Not sure if there's going to be any investigation on that. Oh, and Danley just spun. I wonder if he got some damage, because that car looked out of sorts in turn 4 as well. Another car behind him off into the gravel. We were just talking before. There's few places where cars will wind up in the gravel at this track, so a couple have found it already.
And for Stefan Danley there, the 86, having to wait so long to get back out on track. The entire field managed to get by. So this is Trigiani here that we're looking at. Is he going to make it through this contact? Oh, not quite. He got tangled up very, very minorly. I don't think that's going to be affecting the car too much, and losing 1 position as the result. I think further contacts ensuing. This is the 86 spin into the chicane, just a complete lockup. Not enough heat into the tires or the brakes.
There she goes. Oh, and Paglia has just had an issue. We were following him a little bit earlier, so he's dropping down the order. That was definite help for Growing. Punted off into the runoff there at the chicane on lap 1. So no doubt we will see some penalties after that one, because they are very strict about first lap contact around here, especially if it results in a car going off. Andrew Hillman sitting in 4th. How about this for a track that's hard to pass at? 6 positions up in the first lap.
Not a bad effort whatsoever. It's the easiest lap to make positions up, but of course the famous saying goes is you can't win a motor race on the first lap, but you certainly can lose it. However, Andrew Hillman, he's made his day a little bit easier, has he not? Up into 4th here, but he's still now 6.2 seconds off the back of Kevin Hammond. What the heck has happened there? This is Paglia that's having a nice little spin round and a picnic on the side of the road.
Like he had any contact, so I think that was all on his own. Interesting note about Hillman here in this 14 car. He is dropping off of Hammond, Poulos, Jeppesen. He's going to have to start hustling if he wants to get on the podium here, because he's losing touch. Those 3 definitely running away, though, not battling in front of him. I think they're just kind of trying to pull some distance, as that is Douglas, De Silva, Hales, Souza, Messer, and DiVincenzo all kind of lining up in a train now.
Yeah, and this is going to be the nature of this circuit, of course. You're going to have a lot of slipstreaming and a lot of just waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. Especially with 56 minutes and 21 seconds left, there's really no point in getting overly aggressive. You're just going to be risking unnecessary bouts of contact, and as we saw, a little bit of damage on your car can go a long ways, and having to contend with that for the entirety here will not be welcome. Pretty sure they do have 1 fast repair, but they'd rather not use it early, and, well, as I say that, somebody in the background there is trying to make me eat my words, and that's Marco Souza making the move on to Alan Hales.
Souza's another one that's been storming through the field. 14 positions gained, and we're on lap 3. He was slightly out of position from his qualifying, it looked like, because remember that last lap he failed to put one on the board. But he's already into the top 10. He's in 7th. He's about 2 seconds up the road to De Silva as we hop on board with Ed Trippett, who's not too far behind Souza, actually.
currently in that VR setup as well, fully immersed and with the flight simulator as well next to him. A full simulator enthusiast, Joe. You absolutely have to love to see that.
I'm just a little sad I don't have Joey Atterbury here because I'm sure he would be nerding out over the specs of that flight sim rig. But we come back behind Hillman. Dave Douglas doing everything he can to try and make himself a factor in this one as they come down into turn 12. Just too far back at this stage. He's got to watch out for De Silva in that green and black machine. He is very close behind.
Yeah, he's going to be hunting him down right now, and he looks like an awfully tasty morsel if your name is going to be Dave Douglas. And hopefully Dave here can get by Andrew Hillman sooner rather than later. That would definitely help his efforts out in the short term, but long term, it's going to be Anthony De Silva pretty much every day of the week, you would think. Nice little move from the 11 to the inside, and maybe a bit of net code tangling the two up. A little hard to tell from that camera angle.
Yeah, we do have a black flag, though. Aubrey Iyer has been given a black flag for an incident on lap 1. I think that one, was that the 5 and 11 that we just saw in that replay? Because we got a message from Race Control that said there's no penalty for an incident those two had.
Was it the punting into the chicane? The car that we saw send, who was that? They got sent in. Was it Patrick
Lidback, and 5 is John Kaplan. So I don't know if we've even seen that, interestingly. And we haven't had anything with Hales and I was trying to remember who else. It was Danley was the other one. Yeah, Danley was the other one involved in that as we continue to follow Hillman here. So no word on that incident coming from turn 2 on lap 1 of those drivers kind of tangling with one another. And Hales really doesn't want a bad result here. Remember, he came into this one leading at the points. He's down in 8th, having lost 4 positions from that early tussle that he had.
Yeah, every point matters right now as we are, of course, down to the final few rounds here. With Imola left, you need to hold on to every single one that you can muster. And currently, well, Andrew Hillman in a bit of a roadblock for everybody in the background right now. But the one thing that this will allow, of course, Joe, is a bit of patient saving. You can save some fuel, save your tires, which will potentially allow you to go a little longer in the stint. Now, I'm not sure how much that's going to play too much of a role, as track position is going to be king here. Strategy, of course, would be nice, but being in the front of the pack is always where you want to be.
Now, I said that we haven't gotten a penalty for Danley or Hales yet. Danley does have a penalty, but it's not coming from Race Control. It's from iRacing, one of their automatic penalties. So I'm not sure how he managed that one, unless he cut a corner and didn't give enough time back. That's the only thing I could think of that he would have gotten by this stage. Lidback did get a penalty for an incident on lap 3. And so he is coming in for that one, as I think that was the replay that we saw a little bit earlier involving the 981 car. Back to Dave Douglas now, still stuck behind Hillman. He was a little closer last time we checked on this one. He's dropped off, and they're being caught up by Souza, Hales, and Messer.
Yeah, we'll see if Douglas maybe thinks about a Hail Mary pass into turn 12. I think it's a little early to be going for that at this stage, though, with 51 minutes left, as I said. Not quite where you want to be. Just if you see a moment, you go for it. Otherwise, you're going to stay in this pack and ride the roller coaster, especially through the sector. That dirty air is a nightmare to contend with. It's going to be pushing these cars every which way, and there's that Hail Mary pass that I was talking about. It turns out that it looks like here Andrew Hillman is going to be sweating like a cow in a burger joint because Dave Douglas is trying to push this past the 5-yard line.
Dave's the one sitting in second in the points coming into this race. He probably sees Hales starting to rock up behind him, knows he's got to go because he's got a point advantage here, but the more cars he can put between himself and Allen, the better he's going to be after this race. He could be leading the points coming into the final round. Big dive down the inside potentially from Souza, making a go at De Silva. Nothing doing there, and just as they do that, Stephen Danley was returning to the track after his penalty.
Yeah, and having a bit, oh, 2? Is that going to be down into turn 3? Dave Douglas is really on the hunt here. You never are going to be thinking about a move there. I don't know why I got so excited. It was just sort of trying to sell the dummy here. Dave Douglas all over the back of him. We're on board now with Ben Whitehurst here, currently running down in 17th position. Got a great onboard shot here and a great first perspective there. He's currently on a bit of a cruise on, well, like Route 66. Now, can he cruise on by the number 5 down into the, well, turn 4? You're not going to be wanting to make a move there, and all of that momentum lost.
This looks like he's got his rig set up in a garage in there. Interesting stuff. But he's, yeah, definitely sandwiched between Kaplan and Stevenson currently with no place to go. He's actually where he started this race. This is back up to first in the meantime. Jeppesen has been run down by Poulos. They're dropping Hammond. It's now almost 2 seconds down to P3. And this is a little bit similar to what we saw last night with the sport class, Mike, because it started out where the leader kind of pulled away and then he got reeled in and eventually passed. So I wonder if Josh used up his tires a bit at the start.
That would be potentially true. I'd be very surprised, though. The track temp was pretty good coming into it. These Porsches, well, yes, they're going to be wearing their tires quite a lot. We'd see. The one thing about this circuit is it is 14 corners, 6 of them to the left and 8 of them to the right. So it's fairly balanced when it comes to wear, and you're not going to be too concerned all the way around, especially 7 minutes in, you would think, but I think it may be down to mistakes at the end of the day and just potential incident points as well, maybe. I doubt that. I don't think Josh Jeppesen has been cutting the circuit, but it is certainly peculiar because it does look like Josh Jeppesen is all of a sudden a heck of a lot slower than George Poulos.
Souza looks a lot faster than De Silva. He's been climbing over that gearbox for the last couple laps, just hasn't been able to get by. He's going to have to set himself up here because clearly he's got the speed. So if you're in that blue, yellow, and green car of Marcos, how would you go about this? You've got a car in front of you that you know you're quicker than, but what's your strategy, Mike?
This is the unfortunate reality of the Hungaroring, is sometimes you just have to sit and hurry up and wait. That's all you really can do right now if you are going to be in that position. Souza's going to be looking left and right. If you get a good run on the final corner, you can set it up into the first corner. If you are dive bombing enough into 12 and you're going for it, well, that's also a potential thought. Here we go, though, as the 24 goes for an offensive move. This is going to set them back a little bit. Down into turn 13. It's not going to be close enough. Marco Souza has to wait once more, and frustration is going to set in. That, I guess, would be my best piece of advice, is don't let the red overtake your vision. You have to be calm and wait for it to come to you.
He nearly gave the spot away as we check in with Hammond, really showing you how much time he has lost to our leaders at this stage. Again, a bit vulnerable to Silva down into turn 1 with Souza just dangerously close behind him, but unable to make the move. Hillman is right there for the taking if Antonio can make a safe attack, but based on what we saw at turn 11 this last lap, I don't know if there is a safe attack available.
No, I keep seeing everybody trying to line up overtakes into turn 2 and into turn 3. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be able to fall for that. It's you have to wake up pretty early in the morning in that case. A nice little camera view here as we go on board with Gerwing. See another VR driver, which you see, of course, as equipment gets much better here, Joe. I used to drive in VR on the Oculus 2, and it just wasn't quite there for me. But nowadays, I would love to give one of these new pieces of equipment a shot because it just looks awesome.
I would as well. I've gotten a chance to many years ago drive with VR, and it is a real game changer. But I'm also curious if that was like an RC monster truck or something that was posed on his tires. That was an interesting little bit of decoration that he had just behind him for Gerwing. Meanwhile, as we once again watch Hillman under threat, De Silva trying into turn 13 this time. I got to give Antonio credit. He's getting creative out there.
That he absolutely is. If at first you don't succeed, try again, right? If I guess that's Antonio de Silva's mentality heading into this, why the heck not? The problem is, though, if you don't make this one work right now, you are going to be under threat from behind, but it doesn't matter. Anthony de Silva finally gets on by, and I'm going to be honest, I think Andrew Hillman might even be a bit relieved that that happened.
So battle for P1 on the bottom, battle for P5. De Silva finally sneaks through. Hillman now down to 6. Let's see if Antonio can start to run away. Good timing as well that we have that battle at least temporarily over, because we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. You know, it is looking like Hillman is kind of the cork in the bottle here. He's already losing touch with De Silva. Souza is already attacking him. It's going to be a long day for the 14.
Yes, it absolutely is. Andrew Hillman is going to be fighting battle after battle after battle and basically trying to contend with every war possible. And that was a free position given. I think Andrew Hillman even sees it, but he needs to be strong here. This is the nature of the Hungaroring is, yes, you're under threat, but this is how champions are made. If you're in Andrew Hillman's situation, you just got to hold on mentally, physically, to every little bit you can, because mistakes, they happen to the drivers around you, and just like that, Marco Souza runs wide and opens the door up potentially down into the first corner.
Can Hillman get him back, as a defensive line from Marcos will make that difficult unless you can get the over-under. Hillman tries for it, puts it on the apex, but it's just not quite there. Boy, it's looking busy behind him as well. Alan Hales has shown up to the fight. He's now in 8th position. And then that's Danley, Messer, and DiVincenzo. Of course, Danley a lap down, so he's not battling for position in that group. 13th, that's Robert Galaise, who is leading on Brad Dunn and James Legault at the moment.
Yeah, and Legault here. Well, actually, hold that thought here. I want to still see Andrew Hillman on the back of Souza into this sector, because Andrew, he kind of had all of a sudden a new piece of invigoration. I say he gave that position up for free to Marco Souza, and I wonder if that little mistake that we saw out of him relit that fire in Hillman, and is going to look at it. Here we go. I think it actually is taking the very aggressive line here to set yourself up on towards the run. Every single corner he's hunting in the mirrors. Keep an eye out into turn 12 here, Joe. I think he's going to send it.
Have to come from a long ways back. I'm not sure that we're going to get it this time. Danley, again, trying to get that lap back in behind these cars, but clearly looking quick. This is going to be frustrating for the 86 on a missed opportunity. In behind, that is Vernon Messer, up 3 spots since the start of this race, but being chased by DiVincenzo. And of course, as we mentioned, Alan Hales. Now, wait a minute. Wasn't Hales in front of them before, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes. Yeah, Alan Hales absolutely was. Was that little... No, there was no contact that we saw. They must have missed something here with Alan Hales, as he is up now, well, I guess down into 10th position.
I'm checking. He was caught off the racing line by Danley as he was trying to go by, and he slowed up because of that, and Messer and DiVincenzo snuck through, from what I'm seeing on my screen. So interesting. That was just as Danley was trying to get some laps back in this group, and that just really compromised Hales. He's going to be frustrated about that one. In the meantime, DiVincenzo still holding Messer accountable for this 8th position.
Yeah, and with Hales also, he started in 4th position, and I'm not sure what caused the initial loss of positions as well here, but through it. He just needs to look forward. That's sort of what I was talking about with Hillman. It's all about keeping that fight in you and just looking forward to the race to come. Because while the opportunities, they're not going to show up every single second here. This, again, isn't your Spas, your Silverstones, or any other circuit that has a lot of chances. This is more close to Monaco, and without the walls, I would say. I know that has a lot of circuits you could contend to that, but this one in particular, I would say, certainly it rings true.
Hillman not giving up on Souza, just ahead of Messer here, who we're watching. I've also been kind of poking my eyes over to Douglas. Boy, he has fallen off the top three. I mentioned that he was starting to lose touch early. It's all the way up to 9 seconds between himself and those cars. And the reason that's important is, again, because he sits second in the points. So any more that he can gain, it'll put him in a better position coming into the last round, although he was helped out by Hales losing those 2 spots just a couple laps ago. Souza here on the top screen. Just as hard as he was fighting to get by Hillman, he's unable to shake him. And behind Hillman, Danley's getting, dare I say, aggressive on some cars, almost putting his nose up the inside of Hillman through turn 2. He's got to watch out there.
Tell him to get the hurry up on. Let's get moving. It's almost like when you're stuck in traffic and you got that car just doing the speed limit. You want to go just that little bit faster. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in the real world. But almost giving him a nice little shove there is Vernon Messer into the chicane. A helping little hand as 2 cars pretty much become 1.
And that's actually Danley, not Messer. Oh, and again, he tries to get to the inside. Remember, this is the lapped car. And I understand trying to get his laps back, but I feel like he needs to just chill a little bit here. This is going to cause an incident if he keeps trying to poke his nose in some of these corners.
Has he pit yet?
He was penalized. Remember, he had a black flag. Remember?
Right. So, but did that count as a pit stop though? Is my question. I guess no, it wouldn't have, because he's gonna still. It's all down to fuel. It's not like it's one mandatory pit stop. Yeah. It was 70%. So. Huh. Yeah, I would say I'd like to see him pit, but it's still a little too early. This is not great for everybody.
I mean, he could now. He's in the pit window now, but I thought you meant like his initial stop in, because that was too early. Okay. So he still does owe us a pit stop out here, and he did get by Hillman, finally overtaking there. Check out the battle for first, though. Poulos was almost a second behind about 2 laps ago. Suddenly, he's right on top of him. There is a bit of ebb and flow between our top runners. They can be quick one lap, and the next lap, it seems like things just completely swap around.
I think that's the story of Kevin Hammond as well. I mean, he is now also in this conversation, only 1 second behind George Poulos. As soon as these two start locking the wings and fighting each other, he's gonna be there. And to that credit, George Poulos knows that that is going to happen. So he needs to just be on the best behavior here and not go for any moves that don't look like they're going to be sealed. You have to make sure. So right now, this is going to be George Poulos scoping his opponent out. Josh Jeppesen, where is he weak? Where am I going to be stronger than him if I'm George Poulos? And seemingly, well, right now it's hard to tell, but through sector 3 there, a little bit deep, that could open the wings up at some point. But Hammond, he just gets to sit back and enjoy it, and my goodness, does he look comfortable doing so.
Certainly, as we ride on board with our third-place driver, Poulos just in front of him. Now, Poulos was 4th in the points coming into this race, 100 points back from Hales. As he sits right now, he'd get 320. Hales in 10th position would get 210. So that would put him ahead of Hales. But if he can jump to first, Poulos gets 350. So now it's not just Dave Douglas that we're thinking about in this championship hunt, but George Poulos, who is sitting very well at this stage of the race.
He just wants to make sure that everybody knows that if even he doesn't win this season, he'll be back next season stronger than ever. It's sort of almost a second wind, it seems like, in this championship. Of course, he's never really fallen out of it, but George Poulos, he sees the goal and maybe even sees the light at the end of the tunnel right now, and looking down the barrel at Josh Jeppesen, this could be the difference.
And on top of that, here's some extra motivation if you're George. He's had a second, a third, and a third in the last 3 races, but he hasn't had a win yet. So he probably wants to tick that box here. A second would be great, but he's still looking for that last step that he hasn't filled on the podium at this point. He's got to be careful because Hammond is very close behind him. If he makes an ill-fated move, as we've seen, it'll be easy to give that one up. And drivers coming down into the final few corners are now within the pit window, but I wouldn't expect to see them pitting quite yet.
No, you really want to, especially once you start getting down to that lighter fuel load, take advantage of exactly that. Your lap times, they in theory aren't going to be much faster, but of course, the driving is going to be a little easier. You just get into that groove and that rhythm here at the Hungaroring, and that's where you just want to stay in it. If you are getting held up, if you do know that you're significantly faster, you could think about going for an undercut, but the problem with the leaders being they might get thrown out into some traffic, and they can't really contend with that. If you're Alan Hales, maybe on the next couple laps, you think about going for a stop a little out of line here, but you really want to keep the track position if you have it in front of a car. But if you are at the back of the pack here, like Nick is in P11, why not?
Yeah, remember Nick was much higher up at the start of this race in third. Was, I think, part of that contact on lap 1 that put him back down in 11th. And is currently sitting stuck behind Alan Hales and Andrew Hillman. Things getting very dicey there on the top screen. Poulos offline through the chicane. Hammond unable to do anything with it. Thought for a second he was going to be able to sneak by in the most unlikely of places into turn 8.
Oh, and then he runs wide again. This is that flow. It's broken, and you have to get it back right away. Lock back in. You got a little bit of a straightaway. This is where you have to get in your own head and tell yourself, stop making these mistakes. Get on the brakes when you know you need to get on the brakes. You put in enough laps here. You just have to keep it clean. And George Poulos with a big scare, but not big enough there for Kevin Hammond to take full advantage of. This here is going to be Lisa Eskridge in the 75, running a little deep in the final corner. Big drift, hold your brakes, and a nice stop. That was almost, a Power Puffs move. Powerful, I suppose, but either way, that looked very cool.
It was a power slide, unfortunately. And Danley giving up all those spots after having to overtake so many, some kind of aggressively there, moves back once again. Yeah, Danley is almost just going to have to consolidate on this one, because I doubt we're going to see that 86 make many passes being a lap down. It's just going to have to be a case of attrition maybe to gain some positions at this stage in the race. Back up to our top 3. Jeppesen with now a much more comfortable 1.3 seconds to George Poulos. He has responded and Josh has stepped away.
You know, here's some hope for the pack behind them as well. Dave Douglas on the last lap, a 146.6 compared to Kevin Hammond's 147.7 and the 147.7 or 147.4 of George Poulos. And even Josh Jeppesen, our leader, 46.6. So currently Dave Douglas running in 4th is lapping at the same pace as our leader, and that entire pack is. So we could potentially, as this race goes longer, see them joining that front conversation.
That was close for Anthony. Tried to get by Messer down into the chicane, but the door was slammed shut in his face. We've got Ben Whitehurst on the bottom. He was in a good battle with Gerwing coming through turn 1. Gerwing came out on top for that 18th position down there. So, yeah, it's fascinating because Douglas, as I mentioned earlier, seemed to be slower than those lead cars, but now he's suddenly picking up the pace. Is his car suddenly coming alive? Remember, they are on fixed setup, so nobody's got any sort of difference in that, a car set up to be better towards the end of the race. It's all in how the drivers drive the car here today.
Yeah, and the person that's driven the car the best in race pace on a single lap is, believe it or not, George Poulos. And into pit lane, this is Kevin Hammond. I like this. A little alternate strategy. He was behind George Poulos, and he says, okay, why the heck not? Let's go for the undercut. And this is going to force an immediate response from our top pack, I would assume.
Well, that's if he comes out in clear air. See, that's the problem. If anybody is around him when he exits, then he is going to be slowed up. And I can tell you that he is behind Danley right now, but I think Danley's quick enough that it shouldn't be a problem. So Hammond should have some clear air. Question is, do the other drivers want to dare? Since traditionally here in Tin Tops on iRacing, it typically is faster to go long and run the car as light as possible. But there are situations where, as you said, the undercut can give you an advantage if you're stuck behind a whole group.
This is a really good gamble for Hammond because he doesn't have much to lose. There was nobody behind him immediately to gain that track position over him. So this is where I love this little call here, because if he is quicker, if he can make these new tires come to light immediately, and this has to be the best outlap of Kevin Hammond's life if he wants to gain these positions, but this could work. George Poulos, in my opinion, has to respond. I don't see a world that he can't really, but I do see what you're saying with the fuel loads. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what exactly this is going to do here, because Kevin Hammond is going to be flying along with heavier fuel, yes, but he's got a brand new set of boots, and, well, there's our decision, I suppose. I think neither of our leaders came in.
I do like the point you make about he didn't have anybody behind him. So, you know, like you said, he's got very little to lose. Might as well roll the dice because it's a safe bet. At worst, he loses some time to them, unlikely to lose a position. Alan Hale's now pitting in, so he's going to take his service. Still not seeing most drivers in at this stage, but if they are going to try and do an alternate strategy, splitting it up evenly at halfway is popular.
Yes, as our friend Paul Jeffrey would be very enthused with this strategy and saying that this is the least, the most original strategy. No, that's definitely not what he says. He's not quite a fan, is he?
Well, while we wait for more drivers to come in, we want to take a moment to mention Princess Cruises. They're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Probably have another 10 minutes worth of fuel until all drivers will have to come in. Jeppesen still leading this one, ahead of Poulos, roughly by about a second right now. We're watching Souza over Messer, over DiVincenzo. This is for fifth.
Yeah, DiVincenzo, he's made up ground early on. He fell back and then kind of has stayed in seventh since the end of the first lap, really. Looking forward, though, to this pack, I would assume. He does have a car behind him in Andrew Hillman, who's going to be looking to make potential gains, I think, eventually here. But we'll see as we go on. And the one here, Nick Paglia, where has he come from? Where did he start this race at, actually? Hold on. He started third. How did he fall down the order so far? He was involved with the lap one collision.
Yeah. I think he had contact on lap one, and that sent him backwards. But he's not super far down. He's only down in ninth right now. Just not going the way I think he would have wanted at this stage. Nice little battle for 16th as well. That's Stevenson versus Legault. No, excuse me. That is Torres-Gianni. That's a lapped car, so that's not really a battle. Apologies. And so, yeah, I looked at both cars ahead and behind him. They're nowhere near him. So as we continue to follow Ben Whitehurst in the meantime, now with Alan Hales right behind him. This is Hales having made his pit stop, illustrating the point I was making earlier, Mike. He is now caught behind traffic that has yet to pit.
Yeah, this is going to hurt him massively. Now, the only real saving grace, in my opinion, is looking at the lap times of the leaders. Their best lap of Josh Jeppesen at 146.2. Currently, Jeppesen lapping at 46.8. Maybe not quite where Hales would want that lap time to be. He would like it a little bit quicker. Same with Hammond. He needs to be finding this lap. Again, we'll be seeing how quick it actually is. His lap time previously was a 2:21.5, so it doesn't really tell us all that much considering it was an out lap. But when he does come to the line, this will say if it's time really for our leaders to pit. Nice little move here from Paglia. Can he get this one sealed down into the braking zone? I don't think this is too much of a contentious fight, as it looks like that was a pretty free overtake.
Yep, Hillman probably saw the writing on the wall on that one. Fast car approaching him. Might as well not waste too much time and slot in behind. And as Joey Adalberty likes to often point out, he could probably take some notes here, see if he could figure out some tips on where he could be faster from Paglia.
Yeah, absolutely. Use them as a little helping guide. Stay behind them as long as you can. You get a bit of a slipstream, and that'll give you your every little tenth matters. And here, for Andrew Hillman, he has to gain so many tenths at this stage to find a bit of time. So again, every tenth will matter. Now, I wanted to update you on the lap times here, and this, in my opinion, it really forces the hands of the leaders, considering that Kevin Hammond just put in a 146.1.
Yeah, this is a good point. He is definitely looking faster than Poulos and Jeppesen right now. So if he can keep that up, he is, in fact, going to jump them. Jeppesen does not respond. Poulos does not respond. Both of them stay out. And let's see, 46.1 and a 46.0 for the last two laps. Let's see what the last two laps. Yeah, both laps quicker. Last two laps definitely gaining on the lead pair. Are we going to see Hammond emerge in the top spot after the pit stop cycle?
The top spot, I don't know, but I definitely think he will be ahead of George Poulos. I don't see a world in which George Poulos is going to hold on to this. Now, of course, the alternative side to the coin here is now George Poulos is going to have fresher tires and will be able to take a little less fuel. That shouldn't play too much of a role. In theory, they should have the same fuel when the pit stop phase is all done. But Jeppesen here, I think he should still be in the lead, but we'll see. The benefit is really that Jeppesen and Poulos haven't been fighting, so they haven't been losing much more time than just the fact that their tires are getting worn down.
Ooh, and this is part of the issue. They've currently got Lisa Eskridge in front, and she's going to give way and let them by, but the damage has been done. My goodness. That they were being slowed up tremendously there. Last lap was a 47.2 for Jeppesen, 47 flat for Poulos. Hammond, a 46.1, massively faster at this stage compared to the leaders. I almost say that they can't pit now. Now that they've got clear, they almost have to keep pushing, try and make up some of that lost time.
Yeah, but how much do they have left in the tank? Of course, that's going to be their benefit, is the fact that they don't have much left in the tank. But as I say that, the tank nearly turns the dog around there. And wow, a wonderful save from Josh Jeppesen. But that is going to give him a terrible run down the start-finish straight. George Poulos, a very wise decision there. He had the chance to make the overtake, but he decides against it and says, no, we can't be wasting time squabbling. Oh, goodness. We have to fight it out later. And that was a great save by Robert Gerwing from saving it from the barrier. Wow.
Yeah, and not running into anybody either. Stanley had more issues. Well, just parks it. Maybe that is the point at which the 86 decided it's time to call this race. Actually, I wouldn't retire the car yet. Looks like Danley is still out there running 25th, so they got going. But seemed to come to a halt for a brief moment. Jeppesen, Poulos stayed out. Again, I think they've got one, maybe two more laps of fuel if they've been doing decent on their fuel mileage. but they're, again, going to have to push very, very hard if they want to be ahead of Hammond. Another 46.6 this time by the 20 car. A little bit slower than before, but still way faster than P1 and P2.
48.3 was the last lap, and that of course was due to the back marker, but it does not matter. The times, it adds up, and every 10th is in the favor right now of Kevin Hammond. He is going to be smiling from ear to ear right now, and they stay out again. Yeah, I guess, I mean, yeah, I think you're 100% right, Joe. They have to just use the fact that they're low on fuel. This lap, a little bit better. They brought it back around now that the two are kind of working together. 46.4, 46.5. It's raceable, but it's still not compared. Well, it is actually Kevin Hammond, 46.7, so he's slowing down too.
Yeah, so, well, that was for the last lap. We need to watch and see what Hammond does this time by, and if they start battling with each other, because now look at how close Poulos is getting. That's not going to help the situation at all. So I'm watching Hammond on my screen to see what his lap time looks like. 46.6, so consistent, but again, like you said, just slightly slower. Still, I don't think that's going to make up for what they lost in time. This is looking more and more like Hammond is going to come out our leader.
Yeah, so the only thing that I can think of right now is, would not taking tires help here? Is that what this long gamble is, Josh Jepson and George Poulos? Are they just going to put fuel in, or would that fuel alone take enough time to just warrant putting tires on?
You know what? You make a good point. 21 seconds. That is a very long pit stop. So that's a critical part of this equation that we have missed. He is not going to be our leader, is Kevin Hammond, because the standard stops are between 11 and 15 seconds in length. In fact, many of the drivers that have stopped are looking 11 seconds so far. I do see that John Kaplan took a 22-second stop, so he probably also took tires. Fascinating. Well then, they did lose some time still to Hammond, so that allowed him to catch up somewhat. But going on another lap, Jefferson and Poulos, 46.6, 46.6. I think they are going to be safe.
Did we just all of a sudden have to flip this conversation to saying, did Dave Douglas just make an overtake onto Kevin Hammond because Kevin Hammond's strategy? Is that what's about to happen? Oh my, well, what's about to happen is a potential lead change here as Josh Jepson was under threat into turn 3. George Poulos, he's looking like quite the intimidator right now.
Again, trying to take that lead away as they come up into turn 4. Doesn't try it this time. Douglas is coming out. Oh, and he just about caught Hammond. Oh no, but Douglas has a black flag. That's got to be for speeding out of pit lane, I'm pretty certain. Oh my goodness. There goes his hopes of leading the championship at the end of this race. He is going to fall way down the order after this one.
Yeah, absolutely hate to see it. And this is why, unfortunately, I love to say practice your pit entry, folks, because you can't have that happen. Or pit. Either one. Just practice the pit lane. I guess that should be my sentiment.
Well, he got off the pit limiter too early before he got to the cones and cost him a speeding penalty. So, critical mistake from the 42 car. I don't think, because Poulos is still in a good position. I was going to say, if Hales manages to hold on to the points lead after this is over, that'll be just phenomenal. And there's Douglas serving his penalty. I'm sure shouting a few choice words inside that cockpit.
Yeah, he was only 3.5 seconds behind Kevin Hammond. So what that tells us is that there was potential for a battle between Dave Douglas and Kevin Hammond. But what that really tells me is that Kevin Hammond has lost about 7 seconds to his strategy. The gap was 10 seconds from Dave Douglas to Kevin when they came into the lane. So when all things are said and done, Josh Jepson and George Poulos come out, I think they're going to be disappeared off into the more than likely Italian sunset here as we get ready to head over to the next track.
Sousa pits. And let's see how long his winds up being. It's a bit long, 14.5 seconds. Yeah, that's a fair bit longer, but not outrageously so. So certainly not as long as Hammond's pit stop. But Hammond's already by him, so Souza will emerge just behind Paglia, actually, and Messer, as we watch Souza. Well, interesting. Not sure why we still have that camera at pit exit, because Souza's out on track right now. Oh, and
oh no,
what's going on here?
Is this Ed Tripp? Or wait, is this Dave Douglas? This is Dave Douglas here. That's looking very frustrated at, of course, the fact that he had the black flag.
Yeah, that says it all right there. He knew he had a beautiful opportunity, serving the penalty, and well, he stopped. I don't know why he stopped in his pit lane. That should be a simple drive-through, I'm pretty sure, because now it's taking even extra time. He's going to emerge about an 18th, it looks like. Jeppesen and Poulos are in, though. Our two leaders have pitted. Now we'll see how much time Hammond has been able to make up, since he did have a few very quick laps out there. He was pushing hard. Just a question of can he regain on what was likely about 7 seconds or so that he lost to our leaders.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see here, considering it's just a splash and dash. There goes
Poulos.
That first out of the lane. Poulos. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Josh Jeppesen slow off the gun. And we have a new race leader, George Poulos. Does he have enough fuel to go to the end?
That's what I wonder.
And there's Kevin Hammond.
10 seconds is still about a second short of most of the other drivers. Now, Hammond did, in fact, catch up to Jeppesen, who had a long stop of about 15 seconds. So those fresh tires wound up helping to a degree on the 20, but it's certainly not going to get him the lead of the race.
It won't get him the lead of the race, but it might just get him P3 and his bottom step of the podium would be very welcome here, considering, like you said, fresher rubber at this point. Kevin Hammond has slightly worn tires at this stage, but not comparable to Josh Jeppesen, who we're going to be sending into the chicane. I'm not so sure about that one. But I'm so curious what took so long at the stop there for Jeppesen.
Right on board with Kevin. I'm checking to see whether or not, Jeppesen did not take tires. So that's the thing in all of this is if you take tires, it's about that 21-second stop most likely. But the long stop probably just down to either over-fueling the car, or sometimes iRacing has that variability in your pit stops. It is randomized somewhat in comparison. Hammond going very deep in the meantime down into turn 13. That's not going to help his case.
No, I can see what he's doing here. Every single part of the track that you can't overtake in, it seems that Kevin Hammond is faster. Josh Jeppesen is just quicker in the parts that matter. And he's keeping the position as a result here. That's got to be so frustrating, too. When you're in that situation, you just want to almost bang your head against the steering wheel, Kevin Siggy style, but you can't. You got to lock in. You got to just wait for it to come to you. As we have this battle for fifth here, Paglia, he's looking like he's going to be under threat from Vernon Messer.
Well, he was, and then Messer screwed up the final corner, and now look how far back he is, which again gives us an opportunity one last time to mention Princess Cruises. They are the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Okay, so our situation now that all the pit stops have finished is Poulos leads over Jeppesen by about 4 seconds. Jeppesen is narrowly ahead of Hammond, trying to hold on to that P2. Hammond wanting at least to jump up there. And then it's a massive gap down to De Silva by about 13 seconds in fourth. So the top three have absolutely run away with this one.
Yeah, and De Silva's kind of found himself a bit of gap in no man's land. I don't expect him to come under any threat unless he makes a mistake, considering that Paglia is going to be looking more in his rearview mirror than he is on the road ahead of him, I would imagine. Vernon Messer currently being worn like a new license plate. Battle though for second on through the final corner, and it looks like a good run for Hammond, but he did seem a bit too far back. Does he have enough momentum though? The slipstream is going to be ever powerful when it comes to these equal machines. It's a late dive into the first corner, trying to force an overreaction out of Josh Jeppesen, but again, you got to wake up pretty early in the morning to catch Josh out like that.
Kind of get the feeling that Kevin is overdriving this car a little bit. That's now a few times we've seen him send it too hard into a corner. He's so close to getting this P2 and tying his best result of Series 13, but you can't throw it away quite yet. We still have these 10 minutes left to go. It ain't over till that checkered flag falls.
Where is Alan Hales at currently?
11th.
Alan Hales is in 11th. Okay, and he is currently leading by 70 points in the championship over Dave Douglas, who is not going to be scoring any. Wow, Alan Hales got away lucky on this one. Dave was on such a good haul of points, and that just must be gutting for him. George Poulos, I think, Britt Danley. Where's Britt?
So, okay, well, Britt Danley, that's Stephen Danley. Yes, there's multiple names there, and it's down in 25th. So, yeah, not a problem in this one. Poulos is the issue if you are Alan Hales. So here's the situation. 11th is worth 200 points. The win, 350. So 150-point swing. And when they came into this race, there was only 100 points between them. George Poulos is likely to find himself up to the front. Now, I say that, let me double check here. Hales has 260 on his drop points. So that changes it. I think Hales is going to be leading by 10 points at the end of this race if they finish. And
on that is Dave Douglas, because I think you're absolutely right, and that's a great point, because Dave Douglas's drop round is a 180. So will that put him down then in, will that keep him in second? Or will that be enough to put him down into third? Oh, goodness, no! Happened, no! Josh Jeppesen's been hit by Kevin Hammond into turn 3. Devastation has befolded in front of us. The 73 is going to be charging like a raging bull.
And I fear that Kevin Hammond might find himself penalized for that one. Jeppesen thankfully had a huge gap. There's the replay. Yeah, I'm afraid that one was awful ambitious. He came from a long way back, and the door, understandably, was trying to be shut.
I think you were 100% right a couple laps ago, Joe. That was Kevin Hammond overdriving this car way too much, and he's overdriving it to make an overtake in a corner in which you're never going to realistically make an overtake. Even if you do get to the inside there, the next corner is a right-hander at flat-out speeds. It's unfortunate.
So Hammond already has his black flag. He's going to have to come in and serve that one. And Alan Hales, now here's the question. If Hammond loses enough positions that Hales is able to pass him, that also changes how things will be between them after all is said and done. Okay, he's serving it now, and I think he should come out ahead of Alan Hales, so it should stay as it was at this stage. I do find it amusing that Hammond has a roof hat, which you can actually race the roof on iRacing. I don't think it has any official series anymore, but that's what they had before they brought Porsche on here. Obviously, sort of an offshoot of Porsche, if you will, the roofs, but not a common thing that you see fans of here.
No, certainly a little throwback Thursday, I suppose. It is, of course, Thursday here tonight. And we are watching a battle unfold in front of us. This is Marco Souza and Vernon Messer, both of which are not necessarily running too high in the Actually, I take that back. Vernon Messer currently running in 7th in the championship and ascended to turn 3. We saw how that went on the previous go-around. It goes a little bit better for Marco Souza, Antonio DiVincenzo, who makes that send stick like glue.
Wow, that was aggressive, but yeah, he was given space down at the apex, had to get his elbows out a little bit as they made side-to-side contact with both of them carry on, and DiVincenzo gets a nice 7th place because of that. Hammond, here's the crazy thing. They had such a gap to the cars behind, he emerged in 4th place. So he only lost 1 position if you take into account as, there was a bit more contact between them as we ride on board. This is not over between Souza and DiVincenzo as Souza takes the spot back.
It's going to be hard to get a run into turn 12, though. We're a little too far away. DiVincenzo looks locked in. Even from that camera angle, we can't fully see the locked-in nature, but you can see that there's no emotion on his face right now, and he is firmly fixed on the back bumper of the 704. Well, at least he's trying to. He ran a little deep there in the penultimate corner. It's not going to help his efforts out too much. Here's a little bit of a replay, though, and it's in after the chicane. A deep send. Wow, indeed. How the heck did that one happen?
He must have had a mistake coming out of the chicane, and they're going to maybe swap positions again. Are we going to get more fun out here as they come down into turn 1? Souza defending to the inside. Could get an over-under from DiVincenzo, but he'd be on the wrong side down into turn 2. No, does not get the launch that he needs, although he's going to try and send it in again. And ahead of them, a car off the circuit. Thankfully, does not cost him anything. That's Markussen just trying to stay out of the way. These two getting fierce in the final minutes of this race.
I sense blood, Joe. Something is going to happen here, and I don't know if it's going to be contact or I don't know if it's just going to be one driver over cooking it into a corner and sending themselves into the next stratosphere. Right now, things have cooled down as we head into Sector 3. The gap is now a nice 9/10 of a second, which, I don't know, maybe that's a send away, depending on who you ask, but Anthony DiVincenzo, I think, has a good head on his shoulders and knows that's maybe a bit too much. Now, the gap, though, up ahead for De Silva and Hammond is not quite the same. In fact, this is De Silva ahead of Hammond, and Hammond trying to get blood back into turn 12, but no, he doesn't quite smell it.
Wow. So, yeah, he's run him down already. It's going to be hard to try and make this pass with only 4 minutes left to go. But Hammond could effectively undo the penalty that he got. Because what I was going to say before we had to talk about that battle that we had on screen is, remember, he was sitting in 3rd. So if he had not made that move, he would be effectively back where he was before. But he's got to pass De Silva to get there first. And I mean, based on the speed we're seeing out of Kevin, I wouldn't put it past him that he's got a shot at this.
Well, he's also got those new tires. Keep that in mind. I mean, they're not new at this point by any stretch of the imagination. But yes, newer than Antonio De Silva's tires. That's all that matters. And when it comes to the fuel load, they should be just about even, which in theory means that Kevin Hammond should be faster. Now, that's all in theory, of course. No plan survives first contact, especially with the enemy. And now, welcome a second enemy, Nick Paglia.
Good point. He's got to be careful. He could try and make a move, but that could leave him vulnerable to the 22 car. And instead of getting 3rd, wind up having to settle for just the top 5 here today as he gets awful close behind that green and black number 24 of De Silva, looking strong coming out of the chicane once again. Didn't think we'd get 2 passes into 8 in one race. That is, again, highly unusual to see an overtake there. Going wide, though. Here is De Silva opening the door. This will give the inside into turn 11. Can Hammond make it work? He does. Oh, and trying to sneak up the inside. Paglia thought there was a chance. He's still racing him. Will we get a defense from De Silva? And it doesn't have to. It looks like Paglia is going to back out of it after that aggressive move. But Hammond up into 3rd once again.
Almost had the change taken right out of his pocket by Nick Paglia. Brilliant opportunistic move there from him, but just not quite able to work. Anthony DiVincenzo, Anthony De Silva back onto the charge, though. He had a good run in the final corner, but I don't think he was close enough when he got there. Kevin Hammond, though, 3rd position. He's got it back, and he's going to be wiping a bit of sweat off his brow, I would imagine.
Shades of Hamilton and Silverstone 2021. The penalty isn't going to stop him. and he'll do everything he can to get in there. That was brave stuff going around the outside of 10 and into the inside of 11, really trusting that the car can hold the grip there off the racing line. And yeah, you can see there was maybe a whiff of things for Paglia, but decided he was already taking a risk on that previous corner, almost cutting the inside, frankly. He was so far into the grass.
I think that just really goes to show you the difference in new tires versus old tires, where you watched the man with new tires go on by very easily, and the man on old tires have no chance. So I think a perfect display of pace, and oh no, Keith here, not quite a perfect display of driving, but a nice pirouette and off to the side, having to let all of the cars around him on by first.
We have had a couple of DNFs, I do want to report as we watch this replay on Gerwing, losing it coming through turn 4, keep it out of the barriers, and just barely. Nicely done. Patrick Aguirre, Stephen Danley, and Ben Whitehurst all out of this race. We still have 24 of them running, and in fact, we just got the white flag. George Poulos with a short pit stop and 1 to go. He's committed now. He seems to think that he has enough fuel because he has not stopped back in.
Yeah, and sorry, the one thing that you just mentioned of Stephen Danley with a DNF, he's now out of the top 5. In fact, I think he might even be out of the top 7 in points by the end of this, where he's had a drop round already of 0 at Portimao. This is huge for him, my goodness. And well, George Poulos coming into this race with 1,070 points to his name, 100 points behind the leader, Alan Hales, and he gave it his best effort tonight, Joe. He's going to be taking home the Max Hall.
Wow, what a twist in the story. Because George Poulos, I mean, I don't think we expected him to be the one to go from 4th to potentially 1st in the championship, if not at least 2nd. I think Hales will be ahead of him by 10 points, like I was saying before, if my math is correct. But he places himself so extremely well after this one. And Poulos does have 130 drop points of his own to rely on, so he does have a little bit of a safety net, but I'm sure he doesn't want to have to rely on that to try and take a title. Right now, he's getting himself 1 step closer to being able to claim a PCA Series 13 Challenge title as he comes around turn 13 and into turn 14. George Poulos has outsmarted all those around him. He's outrun those around him, and he has taken victory here today in Hungary.
Brilliant finish for George Poulos. Behind him, Josh Jeppesen going to be taking home 2nd position, 7 seconds to the background. And then Kevin Hammond on the bottom step of the podium. I am looking forward to the interview with that man.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on it all as Paglia wound up about 3/10 behind De Silva. It was close at the line between them. Hales is not given up, by the way. He's in 11th, but he's trying to pass Ed Trippett, and it looks like he's not going to be able to get that. So Hales will indeed have to get his drop points for this one, 260 instead of the 200 he would have earned for that 11th place, which helps hold on to the points lead unofficially by our math at this stage. Only 17 cars finishing on the lead lap. It seemed like this track proved extremely tricky for the challenge class.
This is, if I'm not mistaken, looking at this, I think this is Ed Trippett's worst result, finishing in the top 10, or in 10th position, which I think goes to show you how difficult it truly is. If he's struggling, then everybody is going to be struggling. And interestingly, does that put Josh Jeppesen ahead of Ed Trippett in the points? I think it's close, but I think it does.
Yeah, that ties his worst finish of Series 13. Ed Trippett finished 10th in Daytona.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, credit to Ed. All top 10 finishes the entire series so far, as George Poulos will finish in the lead ahead of Josh Jeppesen. Kevin Hammond overcoming a penalty and still taking 3rd today, as Antonio De Silva was 4th. After that, it was Nick Paglia in 5th position. Vernon Messer was in 6th, and Marco Souza, who had a heck of a battle at the end, finished 7th. He was battling with DiVincenzo, who was 8th behind him. Andrew Hillman settled for 9th, and Ed Trippett, as we said, another top 10 for him. Mike?
And Alan Hales coming down into 11th for the number 74, and James Longo in 12th. Robert Galace 13th, with Brad Dunn behind him in 14th. John Kaplan 15th and 16th, belonging to Dave Douglas. Jack Stevenson down in P17, with Robert Gerwing behind in 18th. Keith Marchison in P19, and rounding out your top 20, the number 11 of Alex Lidback.
From there, it was Carl Bess in 21st, Aubrey Iyer 22nd, and Lisa Eskridge 23rd. Torres-Gianni, P24. Aguirre was a DNF, so was Danley, and so was Whitehurst here today. I think we've caught up with George Poulos. Let's talk to him and see how he thinks about this race, because, George, my goodness, we questioned if you were going to have enough fuel for the end since it was so much quicker than everybody else. How close was it?
About half a lap.
It was a little tight, but not as tight as we've seen it in some other cases. Did you expect to emerge in the lead when you did?
I was hoping I would be faster in the pits because there was no way I was going to pass him on the track unless he made a major mistake.
It did look super difficult out there. And on top of things, if again, this is unofficial, but by our math, I think you should be 10 points behind Hales after this race coming into the final round. What does that do for your mentality going to Imola?
Same it has been. Try consistency and try and get up here on the podium again.
I like that. That sounds like a good plan. Congratulations. Anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Just our same group, our marginally average, above average sim racers, yeah.
Good stuff. That was George Poulos, your winner here today in Hungary. He was followed home by Josh Jeppesen, who had a bit of a long stop. Mike has caught up with the driver of the 73.
Josh Jeppesen, through hell or high water in this race, it was still a P2 finish. How does this one feel? We got a copy from Josh Jeppesen. We'll have to see if we can get a copy from him very shortly. But I have to say, Joe, Josh's race here, of course, by my brief maths here, he has gone from up to 1,340 points, which should, in theory, I think, put him in 4th heading into Imola, and not that far behind the rest.
Yeah, Josh looks to be muted right now, and I'm not sure if he's hearing us, so maybe we'll try him in just a little bit. But in the meantime, one of the drivers we do want to hear from is Kevin Hammond, who finished 3rd today, which is impressive, Kevin, because you had a penalty, you emerged in 4th, and you wound up right back where you would have been before the pass attempt.
It was a crazy race for sure. I feel bad for Joshua there towards the end. I tapped him on the inside, but I'm glad he kept it going. And I fell right behind Antonio, I believe. And then, I was happy to pass him again for the podium.
The other thing that caught us off guard is that you took tires in the pit stop. And we didn't realize until a little bit later on, well after the pit stop, that you had a longer stop. Was that intentional or was that an accident?
Definitely not. As soon as I saw my car going up, I was like, oh man, what did I do? But did not mean to do that.
Well, you did at least bring you back to 3rd in the end. You made some great passes and ran some impressive laps out there in the process. How do you feel about running in the rain? Are you looking forward to that at Imola?
I am. I had a great race at Silverstone, and so I'm looking forward to that again. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for you, and congratulations on getting to spray the champagne today.
Thanks, guys. Congrats.
That was Kevin Hammond finishing in 3rd. Looks like we have lost touch with Josh Jeppesen, unfortunately, so not sure we're going to get to talk to him, which is a bit of a shame, but like we said, we are not done yet because we've got Imola coming up soon, April 10th here for the challenge class. That'll be the last of the races for the season at 9 p.m. Eastern. And we will go to Imola next Wednesday, so you don't even have to wait that long to get there. That'll be April 2nd for the Pro Class, the first race of our Imola rounds here in Series 13. Big thank you goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ramiro and Mike. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.